And a happy Friday morning to you all in internet land. This is episode 4.
Episode
Is it?
4.
Oh, gosh. I didn't even realize that. Episode 4 of the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast. And welcome, Isaac. Today we have special guest, Jose, from a national bank. Can't say the actual name, right?
Let's not get
Happy
him in
Friday.
trouble now.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Hello, how are you guys?
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining us, dude. Totally appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cool. I know you got a little bit your hands full there with your 6-month-old. How's that working out for you?
You know, it's been a joy. It's the idea that, you know, it's been new to me. I have a stepson, you know, but this has definitely been a new experience, right? Just kind of starting from the beginning. You know, it's been a lot of learning has gone into it, but it's been awesome.
So you're used to having a kid, but not an infant, a baby, huh?
Yeah. So, you know, I met my son when he was 3, you know, so I didn't get to experience the joys of the first 3 years of his life. But yeah, so it's different.
Sorry. So, if I'm hearing you correctly, this is your first child that you have seen from day 0, ground zero, and had to endure the pain and hardship and sleepless nights of the first few weeks. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, you know, I would always boast that, you know, I never really sleep. You know, I typically want to, you know, I'll stay up very late, I'll wake up early. And really, I didn't know what no sleep meant until I had a kid. So
yes, sir. But it's a different kind of lack of sleep. It's not like clubbing days, man. This is like, it's like, okay, I got to get up and I want to get up, you know? And it's like, all right,
there's
I'll
a
take care of you,
purpose
man.
to it. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, there's a bit more meaning to it. Right on, brother. Well, congratulations to that.
Thank you. Thank you.
We brought you on, Isaac invited you on, and we wanted you to have you join us today because you are an industry expert, not just in real estate, but specifically in banking. And many of our clients have many questions that cross paths with your industry. And so we find ourselves oftentimes trying to explain, you know, elements of your industry that help them appreciate what they are either A, experiencing, or B, how they can improve their situation, right? So you work for, again, a national bank, and you have a specific experience with that environment. And so what we wanted to do is kind of dive a little deeper into that experience for the consumer to help them kind of get some clarity of how that helps them, not just on the real estate side, but in their personal life specifically. You in particular have some awesome information to give that many people hear about, and they think that they know, but they're going to hear from the expert of how that works out. So we wanted to dive into those questions real quick, specifically about paying off houses and, you know, how does the value of home ownership and stuff. So we'll get to those questions in a second. Sorry to interrupt, man. The other element is the investor portion. Is that right, Isaac?
Correct.
Cool. So those will be the 2 parts. I think we're looking at 30 minutes to kind of get through this?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Cool. So Jose, go ahead, Isaac. Sorry, after you.
So Jose, tell us a little bit about what you do on the bank level and how you got there.
Yeah, perfect. So I am a branch manager for a national bank, right? Been working for the company for 8 years. Started as a banker, and then moved up, you know, through the ranks. I currently specialize in small business and the consumer side. So kind of in those markets. You know, it's kind of one of those things, you know, you kind of grow through the ranks. You work hard. You show kind of the customers the expertise. We've grown through that process. So it's been fun. There's a lot of things within finance, as Jared was alluding to, that unfortunately, we as a society, I believe, we too many times rely on what our neighbors telling us, or a friend, which a lot of times it's with well intentions, but might not always be the best advice out there. So one of my goals has always been to really be involved with my customers and illustrate the importance of having a good financial plan, to be able to reach those goals that they want to reach.
And so that's something that with Jared always has a saying of providing the right information the first time. And so you brought up a good point of with we hear something from a friend or from a neighbor, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And I think it's even more seen in the Latino community, because my uncle did this, or my friend did this, and so all of a sudden everything else is wrong. There's only one way to do it, but that's not necessarily the right way or the only way.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah, and we embrace that, but sometimes we have to break those barriers down, simply because that's kind of the it's all about the trust in a way. Within the Latino community, it's that network of friends, and this is how somebody has done it, and then it kind of becomes like that's the only way you got to do it. I understand, Jose, you have fantastic experience, not just on the financial planning side, but in how to pay down and pay off your house in an extraordinarily short period of time. Can you talk to us about that? Because we always talk to the clients about 30-year loans. They even have the 15-year option, but you have something even better than that. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Yeah, of course. I'll be happy to talk about that. First of all, I do want to speak about, the timing of when I bought my property has a lot to do with, the ability to be able to pay off my property so quickly, right? With the market of how it was when I bought it, I did get lucky enough to buy it at a really good price. So I was able to pay off my house in 5 years. But more than that,
What you just ran over that like nothing, like butter. You said 5 years.
Yes.
My auto loan, I think, is like 72 months. So
Isaac has a longer term than you did.
I have a longer term on my auto, which was, I'm pretty sure, was significantly lower than your house. So I think that's something very key that most people will be surprised or be amazed, and I'm pretty sure, like, we're not going to talk about how much money you make, but I'm pretty sure you make a lot more money today than you made back then.
Oh yeah, no, and I guess, yeah, to that point, right there is. I was making a lot less, and I was still able to pay off the house in those 5 years. I think it is all about discipline. I think too many times, right? It's funny because I was actually just talking to my son. We were ranting about he wanted the newest shoes out there and things like this, and I explained to him, it's like, I asked him, why is it that you want those shoes? Like, oh, I want to show them to my friends, things like that. I was like, shoes are good, but let's think about the big picture. And I think too many times we want to go with the Joneses, right? That saying that's out there, right? And follow that stride, and which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but truly understand what that means to your future, right? Is that new pair of Jordans worth, maybe not being able to make that extra payment on your car or make that extra payment on your house? Some of these shoes can get really expensive, right? So, I think when you set your priorities straight, it makes it that much easier to reach your goals. So step number one, right? Have your priorities straight. Step number two is having that goal in mind. It's easy to say something, but when you have something kind of written in stone, kind of repeating it to yourself every morning, it just makes it that much more real. So I think I am also a believer that, you really do have to believe what you're doing is for the better of you and your family.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point there, with going with the Joneses, because I was just talking to somebody and they were telling me how they, one of their friends just got a new job, got a higher pay rate. So now they're like wanting to move to like Summerlin because, it's Summerlin. And, we understand that they're the price and the entry price level of Summerlin is a lot higher than other areas, but just because they make a little bit more money, they're going to have to like stretch that money just to live somewhere, just for that status quo, rather than investing in a different location where you might be able to stay with something just as nice but be able to pay less and be able to have more money to put towards that principle, right? And so like you said, that's all about priority and what you're looking for. But for
Yeah.
you, the goal was buy something affordable and pay it off as soon as possible.
Yeah. One of my goals has always been to own my own business. And with that, I feel that the best way to do that is not being in debt, right? I think when you are going in business, it just makes it that much easier to be able to put your 100% into the project, because you know that there's nothing holding you back, right? You don't have that big mortgage, that big car payment, so all those things, to me were important. I don't want to be stressed that maybe this month's mortgage payment isn't going to come in with the jobs that I did, right? So at that moment, that was important. But I do want to touch base on something that you mentioned, with that first mortgage, right? And deciding whether you want to buy a house in Summerlin, Henderson, or in a different area of town. We got to remember that sometimes that house that you're buying might not always be your final home, right? And I think that's when, an expert like you guys comes in and really explains the importance of having a realtor. One of the things that I've been really grateful and learning from you, Isaac, is really the vision of showing somebody, how much potential this house has for you to grow into and make a profit, right, with that equity, and then use that same equity to then buy your next future home, right? There's nothing wrong with, maybe taking one step back, but then to really be able to go into that dream home and not be in such a big burden of debt.
Mm-hmm. And that's just I think for us it's very important to give all options. Not most people want to go with the I mean, let's just be real. We're commission based, so obviously the higher the price, the more money essentially that we'll make. But that's not necessarily what's right for the client. And so every client has something that they need versus what they want, and that sometimes gets cloudy because a lot of people want to go with what they want rather than what they need. And for you, and you bring up a good point, so sometimes you can take a step back, be able to purchase something now, but it's so much better than continue renting. And so, I mean, what are your thoughts about renting?
um it's that whole even like the lease idea behind it, right? I don't know, to me personally, I would rather pay on something and know that by the end of a certain term, that house is mine. And granted that, there's no losses or anything behind there, right? Nobody can take that house away from me, right? Uh, let's think about kind of what's happening right now. If government hadn't stepped in and said, hey, you landlords, you cannot kick out your tenant, right? If you were to, if they can't make their mortgage payment or their rent payment, you know, how valuable is that right now if you were to own that house, right? Luckily, again, government stepped in and made it illegal for you to be kicked out. But what if they hadn't, right? Just those type of situations just make me so grateful to be a homeowner and not have to worry about those things.
That's
I
a
was
good
just
point.
talking to somebody right now who is she's renting, and we just initiated the conversation as to, you're willing to pay this much money for a house. Why haven't you purchased already? And part of her response was that she's been scammed over a few times. She doesn't trust a lot of people to be able to do that. And so back to, you know, getting the right information the first time, getting a plan that is valuable to you. But you hit the nail on the head as far as the discipline goes. With that plan comes discipline, because you can plan all day, but unless you execute, it doesn't mean anything, because we have nothing but distractions all day, right? And you know, it's frustrating when I hear about folks like her where, uh, you know, they have good intentions, but they just don't have the right resources. And so this is part of the reason why we wanted to have this conversation, be able to share that with those kinds of folks, because you're right, man. The value that you get at the end of the day, that sense of security during the quarantine period, um, I mean, it's a precious thing. You don't appreciate it until you don't have it, or when you're threatened to be kicked out, you know, and then you got to figure out how to do it in this pandemic time. It's like, oh, I can only imagine the stress.
No, and you know, that's one of the things that kind of do stress me the most, as far as, you know, the people, and it goes back to even, you know, in my industry, right? Though you have professionals that do understand what they're doing, and you know, it is very important to find somebody that you trust, right? Um, it's sad to see how many people do get scammed, and I think being educated, you know, listening to podcasts like this, where, you know, you're gonna have people here that are gonna do everything possible to just teach you without expecting anything in return, right? These little conversations are so important for our community, and for really any community, right? This happens really to anybody, but it is valuable to just be informed.
Everything okay?
Ooh,
I'm
sorry. Push pause.
You okay? I'm sorry about
Okay.
that.
No, you're good.
Don't be.
That sounded
It's all
bad.
good.
Yeah.
It did.
um,
It did.
So let me ask
no,
you
but
this.
Did you want to check on that?
no, she just dropped something. She's good.
All right, cool.
Um,
Go ahead, Isaac.
So here's a question for you, Jose. How has home ownership empowered you? Because you said you wanted your goal was to always start a business. So how has your home ownership empowered that ability to uh, go and kind of start a business?
yeah. So you know, so recently, very very recently, I started a new company with one of my friends and one of my cousins. And we started in the flipping, you know, home flipping industry. You know, so we were able to raise some capital and buy some properties. You know, but of course, with anything, as when you begin, you know, you don't have the cash capital, right? So the money mostly comes from loans, right? Um, to me, you know, the fact that I don't have, you know, a car loan or a house loan behind it just makes it that much more comfortable that my investment, I don't really have to worry about whether it's going to get paid or not, right? I don't have the worries of, like, should I put the mortgage first? Should I make my car payment first? You know, I don't have to think about that. It's like, hey, that money is invested. I know, you know, it's invested properly. I'll make the monthly payments, whatever the case is, right? But I'm not worried about that money. So it just gives me that liberty to just be able to take a little bit more risk, and you know, proper risk, of course, but not be so worried that what if I can't, what if it takes a little bit longer to sell the house than I thought it would. You know, that's kind of what I'm going through right now. You know, when we bought this house, we bought these houses pre-COVID, right? Houses were selling a lot quicker. You know, we had a goal. We're like, oh, you know, at the rate that we're planning, we should be able to sell at least 8 houses, right? That was back in February, March. We're now in June, and we still haven't sold that property. It's okay. You know, the markets are still very strong. You know, they're still, the price, average home prices are very strong, right? So I know that it's gonna sell. It's just a matter of time. But not having those payments behind me just give me that flexibility of not being so stressed.
So I want to.
Yeah, that right there is a case study. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I just want to clarify something for our viewers, is that one of the reasons why the houses haven't sold is primarily because of the 90-day flip rule, which right now you're only open to conventional and cash buyers. Most of those
Hmm.
buyers that you're looking at are going to be FHA buyers. So it's nothing to
Yeah,
do with the property or the locations or anything like that. And
exactly.
I've consulted with Jose and his partner on this, but so just kind of want to clarify that because the market is, like you said, is still strong. We're still seeing a lot of activity, but we have, these few homes sometimes that are not available for our FHA buyers that are looking in this
Right.
price point.
Right. So that speaks also, Jose, to your. I mean, you would almost be a case study in the sense of managing risk. You prepared for the worst, right? And knowing you had some speculative anticipation, right? You were trying to get that thing sold, let's say April or even early May, but
Yeah,
because of the unexpected, that was the freedom you had in not having those debts and not having those worries. It's just stuff you can't calculate, and so you have that freedom to be able to say, hey, yeah, well, just wait. And
yeah,
so back to the discipline, being disciplined to be able to not just take care of your poo, but also, knowing how you planned it and making sure you did it at the right time. It
yeah. I think also having a good circle around you. Um, I think that's super valuable, right? It first starts with the people at home, right, and then the people that are pushing you along, but also a good group of friends that understand that when you tell them, hey, I can't go out today, I have my priority, then and they're okay with that. That means the world, right? Is having people behind you that believe in what you're doing is also very important.
all of these subjects can be carried over into the social challenges we're dealing with right now
Yeah.
in the world, man. I mean, the way that you go back to like the discipline of thought, your perspective, what are your priorities, what are the things that are important to you, how do we change our concepts to be able to benefit us instead of being in a negative space. So that's the win-win-win all the way around, brother. Man, very cool.
Yes, sir.
Um, so you said, so back to the question, better to rent or own? Obviously the answer is to own, right?
Yes, yes.
And the value of home ownership that brings to you.
And
Yeah.
here's the thing that a lot
And
of people, when I talk to a lot of renters, they're like, well, it's because my rent's cheap. I'm not going to be able to find a mortgage this cheap. I'm paying $1,000. I've been paying for the last 10 years, but I'm like, well, think about that. $1,000 a month for 12 months times 12, or for times 10. You're talking about $120,000 that you've just thrown away, where you could have easily put that into a house. And so, yes, your monthly might be cheaper, but you're never going to see that money ever, again. And
ever again.
and
Yeah.
where
You're
Jose's is
making
gonna be
someone else rich.
Yep.
No, and to that point, right? And I think you guys would be better suited to answer this question. But how far off are rents to mortgages? Because every time that I've done an analysis for one of my customers, we're talking about at the most, $150 a month, right? And if we think about what is that $150 difference is in your daily transactions, a lot of times it isn't, it's something you can easily get rid of, right? So I think also just putting real numbers behind it, really speaks to how important it is to own a home.
You're absolutely right. $150, man. That's like 3 dinners at Chili's, if that. 2.5 for that matter. I
Yeah.
mean, it could be one sushi session for that matter.
I mean,
Who knows?
there's a lot of people that go to Starbucks every single day, don't get like regular
Yeah,
coffee. They're spending $5-6 a coffee. We're talking that's $120 a
that's
month.
150 right there.
That's
Yeah,
$150 right there. Yeah, just
yeah.
go, you know, brew your own coffee.
Make your coffee at home.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's when it's valuable to have a good real estate agent that understands both sides of that story and really can put those things into perspective.
Hmm. And it's also
Thank you
valuable
for
to
that,
have
man.
having a good banker, because I remember when, so just a little backstory, I worked with Jose, and so different branches, but same company. And one of the things that I learned from Jose was, doing these like audit style with our clients, and kind of reviewing their transactions and seeing how we can save them money. So it wasn't about selling them a product that they didn't need. It was about, benefiting the client with something that they do absolutely need, because a lot of times we don't realize what we need until a professional like Jose can actually review your account and say, hey, maybe a credit card is beneficial, maybe a loan, a debt consolidation loan would be beneficial, or a refi, or whatever the case may be. And so that's where having the right people around you is very, very important.
Let's go back to that circle around it, right?
Yeah.
Who you surround yourself with. Yes.
So
very cool. So you mentioned that you jumped into the property flipping industry. We get a lot of calls for people that want to do that. Every day everybody's got this vision of that they can go in there and do that, and I'm sure that there are many that can, but you've done it the right way. Having that cash capital up in front, not having to be stressed about any sort of debt obligations tied to that money, and then going in there and doing it the right way so that you can deliver it, for the most return that you can get, and playing by those rules. With your experience, Jose, not just in the banking side, but now in the real estate side, we have an opinion, we have a vision of what we see as far as the market going, but let's hear your perspective of how do you see the market going forward now that we're out on the other side of this kind of stay at home quarantine, getting back into the economy issue?
Yeah, as far as, for me, it has been definitely a learning curve, right? And my perspective has changed throughout this whole cycle, right? When I went into it, I was, super optimistic, and everything was going well. I had a perfect plan, and, a month, two down the road happened, and I'm getting scared. I'm being less optimistic. I'm talking to, Isaac, I'm talking to my partners, and I'm freaking out a little bit. But, as I read trends, and as I understand kind of how the market is going, I think what's different about this, recession versus, prior recessions is, none of this was caused by an election that you made, right? Whereas before, prior recession was, hey, we were just borrowing too much, and that's what caused that problem, right? We were borrowing more than what we can afford. Whereas this one, the economy was already strong, right? People lost their jobs because of a outside situation that was out of their control, right? But that's what makes this market so much stronger, in my belief, is because there's nothing stopping us from just going back to that so-called normal, right? In that sense, I know there's going to be things that change. Technology is changing industries, but as far as the economy goes, there's nothing that's stopping this economy from just continuing where it was prior to this.
And we had a conversation not too long ago, actually, well, it was a few months ago, regarding business, like the business loans and commercial loans. What's your perspective on that now, with everyone working at home?
It is a crazy topic, and I'm wondering myself what's going to happen with that. I foresee, me personally, and I don't have any insight as far as trends goes or anything like that, but I do foresee commercial real estate availability growing, simply because I believe that a lot of companies are going to try to downsize as much as possible. They saw how easy somebody can work from home and be efficient. So I do believe that some companies are going to try to downsize to have a better business plan. So I'm wondering, what that means to the supply. That's actually one of the things that I'm considering getting a little bit more information and possibly investing in, because I do feel like that's going to be an opportunity there.
Totally agree with you, man. I've been working virtually for 15 years, and I've in a way been an advocate of being able to have that flexibility of working from home, being able to embrace technology to that level, seeing companies, like you said, embrace that concept and allowing their employees to work from home is really refreshing. And at the same time, it opens that Pandora's box of, okay, wait a minute, what does that translate into? Like, other than retail, brick and mortar buildings, there's a good portion of the industry that can actually send their workers home. You don't need an actual office space for some of this stuff. And so, yeah, I agree with you, man. The future of commercial looks interesting in the sense that there's going to be probably leases that they're just going to let pass on by, and then now you've got vacancies all over the place. How does that work? For them.
Yeah,
So,
and Vegas, as you guys will know better than I will, the commercial sector has grown significantly. I mean, and I'm saying this again just from me driving to work, right? You see new warehouses up, being built all over town. So that adds to that supply. So as far as an investment opportunity, right? For the listeners out there, I would do some research and figure out if that's something that you would want to get into. There's possibly a lot of possibilities there to get into investing.
Some of those holding keeps for futures. Yeah, absolutely, totally. Man.
So in the banking industry, Jose, or even in your crossover areas and the other businesses, right now, other than commercial, like you see that as an option, are there any other areas that you see is like there's really strong activity that people should look at if they're looking either from an investment side or things that that are just trends that we don't know or maybe we should pay attention to?
I guess if you want to look at the obvious, I think there's still enough room. If you wanted to get into investing in stocks and bonds, there's still a lot of room. Companies are still trying to figure out where their plateau is. There's different investors that are saying that right now is not the market, but at the same time you're buying really low, right? So I think that's an obvious one, but if we look at other sectors, technology is going to be the other one, right? With if you look at the news, Zoom and other platforms have really grown because this is going to be the new way. And I think for anybody that's not within banking or real estate, figure out how you can use technology to better what you're doing right now. Really put a financial thought behind it and really put some emphasis in it. Though people are going to be able to go back to normal, they're going to like the flexibility of just being able to do things from home at a customer basis. I mean, it's crazy. I recently signed up for one of those shopping deliveries where they do your grocery shopping for you. How many of us hate, waiting in line and doing our shopping out? I mean, it's cool to just be at home and like, hey, this is what I need. And 15, 20 minutes later, they have your order ready and then ready to deliver. Those things are awesome. So just think about how your industry is changing and how you can adapt and go forward from there.
That's a perfect advice. Adapt, because I know a few business owners who have refused. They don't see the need. They don't see the reasoning behind why would you spend money on technology? Why would you want to do this? And then COVID happened, and then they were like, well, now we got to close because we didn't have these systems implemented. And so adapting to the changing world is definitely very, very key and important.
Yeah. And that's kind of the mantra of the technology space is, how can I disrupt or how can I adapt or make something more efficient about it? So, to kind of see that roll over into, I guess you can say the entire world now is cool. Cause I mean, we do have to change our mindset, our perspectives, look at new opportunities from there. And man, having an excellent financial planner, someone who can help analyze your situation would be absolutely beneficial for anybody who's thinking about moving into that space. So talk to Jose.
Hey, reach out. Any questions, feel free, please. But yeah, no, again, just remember, again, I want to reiterate the circles or the people that you hang around with means the world in making the right choices. So for all your listeners, I really hope that they, you guys continue doing these. I know they're very valuable to everybody out there. There's a lot of free information that you guys are sharing, and the good thing is that even you as real estate agents, I know, me personally, and I'll say this with all my heart, as far as, what I've done with Isaac, this guy is truly one of those persons that's going to tell you the truth, not just to get a sell out of you. There's been opportunities where I've referred them customers where they aren't even going to buy from him, but he's still willing to go above and beyond, which is awesome. So yeah.
Appreciate that, bro.
And that's one of the reasons why he's on the team, man. He's got some integrity, and he's got a vision, man. I said it before, I'm gonna say it again, man. When I first had like our few conversations, I've had my share of encounters with business people and different elites and so forth, and it's fun having very intellectual conversations if there's that reciprocity there. And
Yeah.
hit it off with Isaac right away, and I was just like, "Oh, I gotta know this guy." So
y'all gonna make me blush and cry.
yeah. We're not trying to flatter you. We're just telling you the truth.
Well,
Cool, man.
and back to what you're saying, Jose. Definitely, we have some good friends. That I won't mention. They know who they are, but and so it is very important. It is very very key to have the right circle, because that's what's gonna make it or break it for whatever goal you have, whether it's paying your house down, paying your car loan, paying debt down, or starting a business. And so it took me a while to realize that. It was, growing up was thinking quantity of friend was more important than the quality, and then realizing that it doesn't matter how many friends you have, it's the quality of the friends that you have.
That's right. Yeah.
And so,
well, did you have any other questions, Isaac, to ask Jose?
no, I think he covered it all.
Cool.
Some great insight from him.
So just to recap, if you're thinking about purchasing a home, get a financial plan. Speak with Jose or any one of your financial planners at your local national bank. By getting that plan, you want to execute it with discipline and intent. And the only way you can do that is by having a support system that's surrounded by not only your family, but your friends that will support you in that, right? So when you can do that and you've got that vision, you can do anything. And that's the beauty of it, man. So thank you for being a not only a cheerleader, but a case study in how that works, man. It's awesome to see that. That does it for this episode of the Uraine Ordonez 5 Diamond Group podcast for Friday, June 12th. And we want to thank you, everybody, for listening in. Special thank you out and shout out to Jose Vasquez, who is a branch manager for a national bank. If you need more information or would like to contact him directly, please feel free to DM us directly or check the links below for his social connection so you can reach out to that. You can reach Isaac and I off of any of our social outlets. We ask you to please, if you enjoyed any of this, subscribe and more importantly, share. I'd love to be able to get to know you better. So feel free to drop any questions that you've got as a result of this podcast or any other questions. We're here to help you out. That does it for this episode. We want to thank you so much for listening. Everybody make it a fantabulous day.